we're going to have to somehow rework the Democratic Party or the progressive, whatever party we're going to be, to not be the softies.
Right.
We need to be soft. Like, we need to be confident in our soft, in our peace, in our anti-militarism, in our pro-human rights, pro-social safety net. What matters? We're going to have to do that, but we have to do it with a little Jimmy Hoffa. I'm sorry.
No,
yes. Dude, it's like we're like
Democrats with bats. I always say it.
How many times have I said the Democratic Party of the 1960s was the party of Jimmy Hoffa? Now, when people hear that, they're like, oh, it's just a party of corruption. I mean, listen.
No, we're in that now. We haven't ever not been the party of corruption.
Nobody had balls like the head of the AFL-CIO in the 1960s. And yeah, he got killed for it. But you know what? He was willing to be the badass that the unionized left was, where there was this respect between the workers and the management class.
We don't have a Labor Party anymore.
No.
I mean, and this is, we always come back to that. What the real change is going to have to come labor up. Like, this is one of the biggest things we do here is support, promote all labor, stuff. And that's not to say always unions are not always working in the best interest of their rank and file. That's another issue, but just labor in general, that's where we need to get behind, because that represents the bulk of the people in this country.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. And most of them aren't unionized anymore.
Right. Just workers. When I say labor, I mean workers.
Right.
It's not always union.
I was just explaining to my girlfriend what a right to work state is.
We live here.
Yeah. And I was saying, like, just so you understand, like she's brilliant, ICU nurse, the best ever, but like, she doesn't know like the political side, right, as much. So I was like, a right to work state sounds like it'd be really pro-labor. No, right? Like, America has obviously like jettisoned the labor movement. Like, Reagan put the nail in that coffin, right? It was already on the way out. Worst president ever, by the way. I'm so sick of hearing like the law. Like, don't even get me started, because I'll talk about contras and then.
Can we just tell you that we have a state legislator who wants to? What does he want to do? Change the name of what?
Anthony Sabatini. I'm sure you've heard of him. He wants to change the floor. He wants to change the Florida Turnpike to the Donald Trump Highway. So there's that.
Beautiful.
Anyway.
That makes sense.
Beautiful.
Listen, I've heard of blowing politicians, but that's as
I'm sorry, I heard Reagan and how people are obsessed with him, even though he was horrible. That's the kind of stuff that I think. I'm sorry.
Well, when I think of Reagan, I think of two presidencies. I think of his first term and I think of his second term.
That's true.
His first term was, depending on how you want to look at getting things done, was as successful as any president we've ever had. His second term was as bad as any term any president has ever had. And that is not being hyperbolic.
But I don't think it was him. I don't think he was there.
No, I mean, there's a real argument that, but Iran-Contra, which I was also just explaining.
1986.
Yeah.
Wild. Like, it makes Watergate look like nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't say that lightly. I take Watergate quite seriously. I mean, Iran-Contra. I mean, if you actually look at what was done, but the point is that somehow, and I've been arguing this, and we were talking about Jimmy Hoffa, right? We were talking about tough Democrats. Like, somehow, and Bernie almost could, but not quite.
He wasn't willing to go as far as he needed to go.
Some Democrat needs to come on the scene and be like, hey, everybody, truth bombs are about to be dropped. The Republicans tell you they're tough, but let me eviscerate and emasculate them on every level. And let me tell you why they've been bamboozling you with their false records, their BS, their personal cowardice for 40 years. And real toughness is restraint. And every single thing that they've come up with for the last 40 years has failed, both overseas and domestically. They're not tough. They don't like workers. They sacrifice soldiers. And don't get me wrong, our Democrats have too, but that's because they were acting like Republicans because they were scared of you voters. And I'm here to tell you it's time to stop being scared. I'm waiting.
I think you need to run, is what I think. Don't act like that's never occurred to you and no one's ever said that to you, because I'm sure they have.
It's been mentioned to me many times, but I don't know.
That would be, honestly,
I'm sick of it. I am sick of it. I am sick of explaining this. Like, I mean, not that I'm the authority on it, but I don't understand why it's weak to be liberal. I'm completely confident in my progressive and vaguely social democratic, if not social.
It's not that it's
like I wake up in the morning just fine. I'm pretty sure that like I'm still a man, whatever that means.
Oh, you're very manly.
Like who cares?
I
who even cares? Like,
well, I don't even think it's a question of, you know, and again, liberal is a dirty word in many ways. It just
Well,
is.
now it is to me, but from
And
the other
so,
side.
But it's also affiliated.
Yeah, I'm from the left of them. That's why.
Right, me too. I'm like so far left of them.
Yeah, like liberal is bad to me because they have now become basically neocons. The neolibs and the neocons have merged in the middle, and they're basically answering to the same financial donors. It doesn't matter.
When we think of somebody who is a liberal in the context of the way that it's basically, you know, implied these days, you know, you're not thinking of, you know, most farmers generally are liberal and have been. One of the most interesting things about our history is that when we talk about one of the great political upsets, we know obviously how big of an upset Trump was over Hillary, but Harry Truman was not supposed to defeat Tom Dewey in 1948. And the reason he won,
says Dewey wins.
Yeah. And the reason he won is because he won the Midwest and the heartland with the farmers. And that is a segment of the population. People love farmers and they think about that. But when you talk about a liberal of today, the face of the party are these beltway, overeducated, stuff their nose at you academic elitists. And they've always been in the party, but they've never had the share of the pie that they are front and center now. And
there's no workers. There's no worker bees.
Yeah. We've been talking about this recently. This was a tweet that I thought just symbolized what they represent in every way. You know who Joy Saline is, the CNN lawyer. Okay. So she puts out a tweet the other day saying smart voters know to vote for more Democrats to nullify representatives like Joe Manchin. And I'm just thinking, this is it in a nutshell. This is all of it. This is, if you want to put one tweet on the board and say, this is why people hate liberals, this is it. Because this is not only with the first implication of you're a moron if you don't listen to us, but it's this other implication of we just need to elect a few more Democrats and then things will be okay. It's like, guys, this is all of it right here.
But it's like historically inaccurate. I mean, look, Obama had a supermajority and the best we could get was Obamacare. So I'm tired of people, especially certain very disgruntled, miserable crones that couldn't beat Donald Trump, going on doing interviews and talking about if only we elect more Democrats, that's going to solve our problems. I find that infuriating.
So I've actually never talked about this on a show before, but like, if I may, for like 2 minutes.
Sure.
I think what we're getting at is, so like I didn't come from a particularly upper class family. I wasn't indigent or anything, but you know, single mom. I lived with my grandparents and my mom half of the week, right, growing up. The reason I am who I am is my grandfather, right?
Same.
Joseph Bubsy Peatley, 33 years in the FDNY, right? Born in 1927. He dies 4 blocks and the same size bungalow away from where he is born. In Midland Beach, Staten Island, New York, the garden spot of the Western world, where the Verrazano Bridge is your Pikes Peak. But this is what's interesting, and this is what the Democrats need to get back, and I don't know how. He used to laugh at his sons when they tried to become kind of Republican in the 80s. Like when they tried to be Reagan Democrats, he was like, no, you don't. FDR, New Deal. Like, Democrats are for the working people. But here's the other crazy thing. The guy was in the Navy in World War II. He was born in 1927. He lied about his age to get in 1944 when he was only 16. But when my uncles called me a race traitor because my first girlfriend was Puerto Rican, he called them on it and said, what are you talking about? Like, you think there aren't white trash in our neighborhood? What's wrong with them? They're just like, they're better than us, actually.
Yeah.
That guy wouldn't have voted for Republican if you put a gun to his head. And I want to, and that's because of labor. That's because of Social Security. That's because, but he wasn't, people usually put that guy, like my grandfather, in a box, and they say he must have also been racist. And don't get me wrong, he used the phrase like colored and Oriental. I'm not going to lie. But he defended equality. He was for the Great Society. He was for the Civil Rights Act. And I'm just wondering, I don't think he was that much of an anomaly.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.